Hi, and welcome to Intervention Services video series, Mental Health at Home. My name is Aspen Webster, and I'm a licensed master social worker and a school-based mental health professional. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about trauma reactions, and what we can do to be present for ourselves and for others. To start, we'll ask the question, what is trauma? A trauma is defined as a distressing or frightening event that we experience or are witness to. Trauma is our response to this distressing event. We generally associate trauma with larger scale events such as war or natural disasters, but we can experience trauma in response to a variety of stressors, including abuse, neglect, domestic violence, racism, sexism, divorce, or even witness to that abuse or that violence. Trauma can result from one single event, from sustained experiences over time, or from compounding events. Something that is experienced by a person as traumatic is a trauma. Our bodies process the traumatic experiences as a threat. Our bodies want to protect us, and they're going to launch into action when they perceive that threat. This protection happens in the moment of the experienced trauma. It can also happen afterwards when a person experiences a trigger for the event, particularly if a person has not been able to process their trauma fully. To provide a visual for how our bodies process trauma, let's assume that my hand represents our brain. My fingers represent the prefrontal cortex, or executive functioning. This is where we manage logic, reasoning, empathy, and problem solving. Inside the brain is our limbic system, or our emotional center, where we take in stimuli and process our emotions and memory. My wrist represents the brain stem, which is our survival center. It's developed at birth and is often referred to as our lizard brain because it regulates our instinctual behaviors. When we experience a traumatic event or a trigger after the event, our emotional center takes in that information and our prefrontal cortex goes offline. At that point, our lizard brain takes over to protect us. And that's where we see a lot of our instinctual traumatic reactions. A slightly more complex but helpful way of looking at this is through the Polyvagal Theory. So you've likely heard of fight or flight before. So what this looks like is we're starting in a space of social engagement. Our prefrontal cortex is online. We're able to engage with executive functioning. We're curious. We're in the present. We're connecting with one another. But as we start to perceive a threat, and that could look like a trigger, that could look like a threat that's coming at us, any kind of thing that sets our body off, we move into activation and our arousal increases. And as we move upward, we move into that red zone, that sympathetic system. The sympathetic is what activates us to protect us. And so that's when you start seeing the fight or the flight. So fight can look like rage or anger or frustration, something that is movement towards to try to actively attack the threat. Flight looks like panic or anxiety. It looks like anxiety spirals, that worry for the future, anything that can get us away from the threat. And so then as that arousal increases, we still have that threat, and maybe we're not able to amend it with that fight or flight. That's when we move into that freeze zone. Our bodies collapse. And that just doesn't look like our bodies physically collapsing, although it can. It looks like numbness, shame, shutdown. It looks like dissociation. And what dissociation means is we sort of just zone out because it's too much. We feel helpless. That can look like not wanting to do our work, not wanting to engage with our friends. Just we're so overwhelmed by this and we're so activated that we're just in this I can't space. So what we want to try to do is we want to move our bodies out of this activated space and deactivate our bodies to get us back to a space of social engagement where we're calm, where our prefrontal cortex is back online. So in this theory, freeze and social engagement both serve as part of that parasympathetic system. It's bringing us out of sympathetic, which is activated, and starting to deactivate us. But what we want to get to are the things that get us connected to one another, back in that green zone, back into social engagement. It's important for us to build our toolbox for managing those times when we're experiencing extreme activation as a result of trauma reactions. Building our toolbox means knowing how we can regulate our bodies in times of activation. So one of the first things you can do is you can ask your body what it needs. Make sure that you've had enough water and food for the day. It's important to be able to have that baseline physical need met before you can move forward. And then movement, walking, running, stretching, sports, anything you enjoy, yoga if you have access to it, can help with that as well. And then deep breathing exercises. Other videos in this series will include deep breathing and different things that you can do to engage that system and that parasympathetic system to help bring your body back into a space of deactivation. Using your hands, coloring in coloring books or coloring mandalas, fidgets, and not just fidget spinners, but also slime or putties, anything you can do to get your hands moving. And music, if you play an instrument, strumming, anything that brings that joy and that hand movement. And then finally, connection. And that could look like calling a friend, being with someone, being able to touch someone, making eye contact, just being there and knowing that you are connected physically and emotionally. So how can we help others, if they're in that state of activation, get back to that green zone where they're regulated? Say we're a parent or we're a teacher or we're with someone that's experiencing activation and we want to be present for them. What can we do? So one of the first things we can do is we can set clear expectations. If you're a teacher, for example, you would want to keep a calm and predictable classroom environment. You want to prepare students for transitions, make sure that they're oriented so that there aren't any surprises. We want to take the temperature of rooms. We want to make sure that we're being present and aware of the things that are going on, just to notice that people are going to be triggered by different things. We also want to use a calm voice. If we're feeling angry, that's very valid, but yelling is only going to increase the activation that someone is experiencing. So we want to make sure that our voices stay calm and low and supportive. We also want to create connection. We want to remain curious, ask questions, ask what people need. We want to use active listening, and that means that we want to be very present with the person as we're communicating with them, using facial expressions, words, any kind of thing that shows that we are very present with them and listening to what they're saying to us. And part of that is making eye contact to say, I'm with you, and establishing that strong connection so that they can come back to that green zone of feeling safe. And then we want to be conscious of our own triggers and needs. Sometimes what's activating others might be activating us as well. And we want to know what we need first to be able to be present for that other person, because you're important too when we're in this together. So being present, knowing those things is going to help with that co-regulation. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. I hope that it was able to give you some resources for helping yourself or others who might be experiencing trauma reactions and to know a little bit more about the basis of them. If you're interested in more videos and other resources and services that Intervention Services offers, please visit our website. We hope you take care and thank you.